Hello, everyone. Parents, welcome back. I'm Erica Desper, founder of Center of Confident Parenting. I'm here today with Bernadette and Amelia. We all help families solve sleep challenges and potty training challenges, and we are answering your questions, and we have a few that were submitted that we're going to go over today. If you have one, we will link you to where you can submit that. You can go to centerforconfidentparenting.org and click the Ask an Expert button. So this parent said, oh, do you guys want to say hi? I'm just going to dive right in. Hi.
Hi.
This parent says, we're a week into potty training. We did 2 days of naked and he did well. Now he's only gone on the potty when we prompt him, never on his own, and he's had both pee and poop accidents in between our prompts. He knows that poop and pee goes in the potty, but he has never said, I have to pee or poop to us. Any advice on what we should do? And it's a little hard to answer questions. We were talking about this before we hit record. There's a lot of follow-up questions we would want to ask. We don't know how old this kiddo is, where there's a lot we don't know, but we will answer it best we can without being able to do some follow-up. So Amelia, do you want to go first? What are you thinking for this family?
Sure. So yeah, I would ask some follow-up questions of this parent. Number one, what is he wearing now? After he did 2 days of naked, did he go to commando to pants or shorts with no underwear? Did we go right to underwear? Or my other immediate thought is 2 days of naked was probably not quite enough time for this kiddo, and we might need to go back to more naked time. I will often end up talking to parents about how even if we see success and we see a little bit of a light bulb moment go and we can move forward to the next block, that it's not always linear, and we might be able to go forward, and then we might need to go back and kind of let that kiddo reacclimate to those sensations again and have them naked for at least a chunk of the day or something along those lines. But yeah, my first question is, did we jump right to underwear? Because that could also be contributing to this. And yeah, same thing. Age, there's going to be a few contributing factors. And if this parent is listening and we could connect with them, we can chat in more detail about what's going on.
For sure. And I think, first, somebody listening may not have any idea about this whole, what we just said with the naked and the blocks and the, so if you're not aware of that comes from OCRAT potty training, with the concept being remove the layers, let your child just get the gist of the process. And then you kind of slowly add the layers in one at a time as they progress. It's not that every child needs to start that way, but there's a lot of good things about that strategy. I think so go check it out. We won't spend too much time on that today, but I think where parents get a little hung up is that some people refer to it as a 3-day method. And while 1 to 3 days is often the amount of days that a particular kid might need in that naked block until they get that light bulb moment, that is generic, right? Some kids do catch it on day 1 and you can move on immediately. Many will have it by day 1, 2, or 3, but that doesn't mean there aren't kids. This is the piece that I think parents miss. There are plenty of kids that still won't have that light bulb moment in those first few days, and that's okay. It's all within the range of normal. Is it problematic? It's totally problematic for parents who have carved out time and they need this to take a weekend or, a long weekend from work, and then everyone has to go back to work and school. Unfortunately, kids don't master this learning process according to the time that we could carve out from our work schedules. It's one of those things that this doesn't always match what we're able to do. I agree with you, Amelia. We would want parents to hear, don't get hung up on a number of days. This will take your child however long it takes your child. And yes, it's always okay to say whoa, if we noticed a problem when we moved on to whatever comes next, it's not a regression or a fail or anything to go back a step. If it felt like they were more successful in the previous step, maybe they just need more time there. And then, yes, I would say, what layers did we move on to and how quickly? So that was not what I planned to say, but I threw that in there. Another thing that I see in this question is he knows that poop and pee goes in the potty, but he never says, I have to do that. So it's helpful for parents to maybe think about what this learning process actually is. You're taking your child, or your child is going from, I already went, right? I'm used to wearing a diaper or pull up. And when I'm wearing one, I can just let it out with no thought to it, right? Drop it where you are is what I like to say. And when you need to. So we have to go from that to, oh, I'm going right now, right? I actually felt it happening as it was happening rather than after it had already happened. And then the next step, which is when we consider them trained, is I need to go. In order to move along that continuum, they really need time to feel the sensations that precede pee and poop and connect those sensations with the action of taking themselves to wherever they're going to go, the potty, the toilet, the next room, right there. So it's connecting the sensations to the action. So what does that mean with respect to this question? It means that knowing that what is in them goes there, that doesn't matter if they haven't really learned those sensations and made that connection of, when I feel these sensations, A, this is what they mean, and B, this is what I need to do to act on that, right? When we do all the prompting, which is how a lot of us start for obvious reasons, it's not tragic. And if you need to start that way, that's okay. We may talk about a different way to start that could pay off a little bit more, but it basically means they just haven't had the opportunity and the practice to feel the feeling, have that thought, and then take that action. The example we were talking about before we started, I have a teenager, he knows his shoes go in the shoe basket, right, when he walks in the front door. But despite having talked about that for a really long time and set that expectation, the shoes end up everywhere. He just comes in the house, tosses them off. And why is that? That's because I typically see them, get annoyed, put them where they go, right? And then I say, your shoes go in the bin, right? But he's just not in the habit of, oh, I'm taking my shoes off, let me stop, let me put them where they go, because I've been doing it for him. So that's how I think of when we're doing all the prompting. You need to start that way, but at some point we have to move from, hey, you're going to feel it. At this point, should know what to do with that feeling, but you've got to take, that action, which is why we say accidents are part of the learning process. When, let's say when pee starts to come out and they go, oh, I'm going right now, as much as we don't want to deal with accidents as the parent, that happening is what helps them next time have a little bit more advanced warning with that sensation, and then a little more time to take that action and get where they need to go. So that's why with the oh crap method, aside from doing the naked and adding in the layers slowly, we talk about catching it as it happens. If you are prompting, and often, and whether or not you see signs that your child needs to go, that's another thing. If you're prompting them every hour, but they don't need to go for 2 or 3, they're going to get annoyed and they're not connecting the sensations with the action. They're just going because you told them to go. So instead, we can wait till we see that they need to go based on their face, their body language, or the fact that it's literally starting to come out, and catching it as it needs to happen or as it is happening helps make that stronger connection so that they can start to notice that, take over on their own, and you can start to back off of your prompting. Okay, that was a lot of words. Bernadette, your turn. What do you want to add to that? So we've got maybe go back in the layers, maybe back off the prompts and let them start to make that connection, even if it means accidents. What's another reason they may not be making that connection?
Right. So you talked a lot about the sensation, right? So there is another sense we have, right, which is called interoception. And that's kind of it's like our sixth sense, right? We have our regular 5 senses. And so the ability to be aware of these internal sensations in the body, that's interoception. So we want to be bringing attention to the peeing sensation. But other things for interoception would be like, what does your heart feel like? What does breathing feel like? What does hunger feel like? Pain, things like that. So some children are going to feel what that sensation of having to pee or poop. It could be stronger, could be weaker. Even if it's not stronger or weaker, there is a sensation there. And we want to bring attention to that. And that could help them be more aware. If we're only 2 days in, this is something they're having to be aware of, feel for the first times, right? I mean, how many times are you going to feel like you have to poo in the first couple of days of potty training, right? Not as many as probably pee. So it's a feeling that they haven't really had to pay attention to. So we want to bring attention to, what does this feel like when you have to pee? Is it a tingling? Do you feel a full or the poop? Is there a pressure or something like that? And, kind of have conversations about it. We have a coloring sheet that we'll give to parents where kids can color. Where do we feel having to pee? Oh, you're sharing that. Perfect. And they can with
And
crayons.
you can use anything. I mean, ours is just
Yeah,
an
any,
example, but
it could be
clearly
a
you can
stick
make your
figure,
own.
right? Yeah. Or get a coloring book of a favorite character they like or something like that. And just start to, bring attention to the feelings inside their body, talk about what it feels like when you have to go. And, kind of use words, tingling or pressure or full or something like that. There are some books that
Sometimes
we
I'll
also
say knocking at the
recommend.
door. Feels like it's like knocking
Yep.
at the door, trying to come out.
Yes. That's a good one. So there's some books where you can, I feel something is one, and Erica has that. Yes. And then another, how do you know? Oh, how do I know when I need to go? And it's just good to like start that conversation and bring awareness to other sensations inside the body.
Yeah.
And just
And
kind of
I
start
think what's
that dialogue.
confusing for parents is that like, well, my kid knows when he's hungry and tired and thirsty. Like, how would you lack just the one? Like either you have low interoception or you don't, but that, according to our knowledge, that's not the way it works. You can be fine in some areas, but still really struggle with one particular sensation.
Right. And even like I see with my two kids, my daughter can be bleeding and have no idea what happened. Doesn't bother her. My son gets like the tiniest little thing and he's losing his mind. So we see that people, different kids, they're going to interpret different sensations differently.
Yeah.
And it could be, yes, a loud voice, or it could be a quiet voice, a voice they can kind of ignore, right? Or one that they just can't. And so we want to just be aware that that is just something to keep in mind and say, how aware are they that they know they have to go? Is this new? Is this just a new thing? And that's why? Or do we feel like they're really not sure, or, so it's just good to kind of talk about it, know that it's an element of the potty training process.
Yeah. And I liked what you said about talking about it out loud. This doesn't always have to be actively like, how do you know when you need to go? Show me on this coloring page. I mean, it can be, but it can also be like you, the parent, notice the feeling of a full bladder and you just kind of narrate out loud, not even as if you're talking to your child, just like, I feel whatever you want to say. I think my body's telling me I need to go use the bathroom. So just like a very casual, just kind of saying it out loud, because they are listening and they will pick up on that for sure. Okay, so hopefully that is helpful to that parent. I mean, what I'd really like this person to hear is like, this is very normal for day, after the first 2 days. I don't know what they decided to do after they submitted this question, but none of this means your child's not ready or capable. They probably just needed more time to process before all the layers added in, and more time, more independence to start making that connection. The process might have been a little bit too much on the parents. And then when you tried to hand it over, he was like, wait, I need you to remind me constantly, right? Okay, our second question, potty training troubles. He loves underpants, is so happy to put them on. He knows when he has to go. He will verbalize that he needs a diaper or the pee is coming. That's good. At least this is a different problem. This kid knows when it's coming. We encourage the potty. We bought a little tinkle target. We even just go pee outside. He will not do it. He ends up holding it for hours and becomes upset and in pain. School also won't move him to the free room until we master the potty in all aspects. We've been at this for about 6 months. Truthfully, on and off, as it worried us, he just wasn't ready, or we were creating a seeking control battle. What do I do with three question marks and a sad face? this poor parent. So I'll go first. I first just want to say this is so common. I want this parent to know that they are not alone, particularly with the pee withholding. I get a lot more poop withholders. Bernadette, I know you tend to be the queen of the pee withholders, but we've all had kiddos that were really tough. no one's really talking about it, but withholding of either or both is probably the most common potty training challenge. The good news in withholding is it means your child has loads of control over their bowels and their bladder, so you won't be dealing with a lot of accidents or maybe any accidents. The not so good news is you won't really get any practice or success until we address the withholding behavior. So again, this does not mean a child is not ready or not capable. It means that they are experiencing an anxiety that needs to be worked through, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we get to that anxiety piece of it, I just want to touch on the challenge of jumping straight from a diaper or a pull-up. Those are interchangeable for the purposes of our conversation today. It's not like one gets them closer to this training process than the other. He's saying he needs a diaper, which means he's really used to just letting it out in whatever he's wearing. And so the underwear can feel, very similar. Now, fortunately, he isn't using the underwear. But as we talked about in the last conversation, that might be complicating the process. I think this kiddo probably needs to get comfortable with what we call a free pee and a free poop, meaning there's no fabric up against their skin. They need to just get comfortable with the release in a new and different way. And also the positional change. It can be very hard to go from standing, crouching, squatting, whatever your kid was doing before, to like, okay, now sit on this hard surface. Yes, they know how to go, but their body may not perform the same way when we switch, the position. So I think he's just struggling with the change of it, and he's clearly not comfortable with the change yet. And this may be a kiddo, it sounds like this family is not familiar with OCRAP or the concept of the blocks. And I think that would be helpful for them to learn about, just to see if jumping straight to undies is not the way to go. I would also love to find out, as a follow-up, where are diapers still factoring into the picture. I think this kiddo is convinced and correct that when he does hold and starts to panic, maybe the diaper will get put back on his body, or he'll hold till maybe nap time or bedtime, and then the diaper will get put back on his body. And some families can go about it that way, but I would like this parent to hear that not all families can go about it that way. This kiddo may just not be willing or able to move forward with this new place for going and this new way of going, so long as the old way in place is still readily available. So we often think about taking that diaper as too much pressure. Like if I just take it away, it'll be too much pressure. But what we really see is that keeping it in the picture, sprinkled in, actually is what creates all that pressure. Like, you want me to cope with something new, but my old preferred thing is still around. So for some kids, it is better to be more black and white. Bernadette, did you want to talk about what that diaper, why is it so hard to let go of the diaper?
Sure.
And again, diaper pull up, we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. So when kids, the diaper's all they know, right? It is familiar. They're good at it. It's like a security blanket. They don't have to stop what they're doing. They can use it literally anywhere, in their bed, in the car, like, they always have it. And so when we take it away, it is like, wait, where's my security blanket? Where's my, where's the thing that I used to go? And it's just not having it there. That's new and different and can be a little scary for some kids. And we see the withholding, and we often compare it to, that's all they've ever known. And now us as potty trained adults, right? If, you came to my house and I said, oh no, see that, bucket and that curtain, that's our bathroom, right? You would probably decide to just hold it because that would be too new and different and bizarre. And so that's what can happen with some kids. They're just like, yeah, I don't know about that. So I'm just gonna keep it in. Or I'm gonna keep it in, and I'm gonna wait till I have that comfortable, private, diaper that I'm used to. So that's really why Erica was saying how sometimes if we keep that diaper in the picture, they're always going to go back to that. So the diaper is just, it is familiar, and this new way is unfamiliar. And with, unfamiliarity, it brings questions. I'm not really sure about that. So that's why a lot of kids will tend to want to keep that diaper around and kind of push against this new way.
And I always say to parents, like when we're on a consultation on Zoom, I'm like, try it, stand up on your couch right now, try to go. how easily, how quickly can you do that? Probably not at all. And if you were going to work up to it, you would need a lot of exposure to that new, like you'd need to do it a bunch of times before you could just do it, right?
And honestly, the example I use that I feel like a lot of adults can really relate to in real life is trying to pee in the ocean.
Yes,
we've all had water, whatever, an adult beverage, and we really have to go, and we think we're just going to go waist deep. And I don't know about anybody else, but it's really hard for me to do that, even if I have to pee really bad, because there's people everywhere, and it doesn't matter how hard I have to go. It's just so out of the norm that it's very hard, and it takes immense concentration. You got to really block everything out. So that's what it can be like for kids. They may want to go, they have to go, but they have to really connect all of that and calm themselves and be able to relax those muscles in this very foreign
that brings up a really good point. Is it's not like, we don't want parents to hear this and think their child is intentionally holding. Sometimes it is a conscious choice, but a lot of times it's not. So Amelia, did you want to talk about what happens when they get freaked out?
Yeah. So what Bernadette was talking about, and I often will talk to parents about exactly like that scenario where you go to a new place, even if you wanted to at Bernadette's house use the bucket, right? Like a piece for some reason, your body probably wouldn't cooperate, at least initially. This is too new. And the reason that happens is because there's muscles involved in this whole process. Those particular muscles, we know from research, respond to our emotions. And we do know some of this too, because things like when women are giving birth, if they're feeling like unsafe, those things, your body kind of like shuts off. Same kind of concept, where if you're feeling anxious or kids are concerned, their body starts to like clench up and say, no, we're not going to do this. Maybe this isn't safe, or, that's what's going on in their little, in their little brain. And the problem though, that lies in that is that they are muscles. So when maybe they have made a conscious choice, at least initially, to say, that's too new, I don't want to do it. So then their muscles tighten. And then the problem is that muscles get stronger when we exercise them. And then we get into this loop where maybe they are feeling a little bit better. They want to start to do this, but now their muscles just absolutely will not cooperate with them. And then sometimes we'll see parents who feel like, from the adult perspective, they're very frustrated because it seems like this child like knows they need to go, and we hear a lot of, they just won't do it.
We hear a lot of, they sit forever, they try or don't try, whatever. And as soon as they stand up,
then they go.
Like which that. And really, I don't believe that's intentional.
Right. And that's, we always talk a lot about the model of going from kids do well when they can. So like reminding parents that the kid is probably equally as frustrated with this process if something like that is going on. And if they're not doing well, there's a barrier in their way. There's a speed bump or a hurdle that we need to get over for them. A lot of times Erica mentioned what we call like a free pee. And that is, we'll talk about kids going outside of a diaper, or if we've gotten to kids going in underwear, like consistently having accidents, things like that, outside of having fabric or something up against their body, is like our first goal. Even if it sounds silly to say like that an accident is initially our first goal, but sometimes it is, to just say, hey, that was successful, they were able to go. Giving them tools to kind of work through that. I think we talk a lot as parents about like helping kids like regulate and things like that in the moment of like a tantrum, kind of idea. Thinking about this from the same aspect of like, what tools can I help them work through this process with? For pee, especially with water, could be a really helpful tool depending on
feeling it.
Right. Like how that kid's going to respond to that. But other kids, we might need different tools to help this particular child go through that. So there's some trial and error to figuring this out, but yeah, figuring out a free pee and helping them work through those emotions is going to be how we eventually get to the Like,
and that's the last thing I want to just stress is, so a lot of times parents will then hear all that, if they even hear us say all that, and then come back with like, okay, so if I wait, you know, a week, a month, 6 months, and just, you know, maybe my kid is 4 instead of 3, then maybe this will go differently. Of course, we can't say for certain, we don't have a crystal ball, but we have a ton of experience working with kids where families have tried this over and over and over and let a lot of age and time lapse in between, hoping that they would get a better result when they dive back in, or a different result. And what they get is the same, they're facing the same obstacles. So realize that with anxiety, and this is very well researched for adults and in the area of cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure therapy and all of that, avoiding the thing you're anxious about just makes it bigger and worse, right? It's actually experiencing the thing you're anxious about that brings that level down. So if your child is going to process this from an anxious place, then they're going to do that at probably at 2, 2.5, 3, 4. So you can just power through it. You might need someone's help like ours. If you want to prove to yourself whether time and age would make a difference, you can, of course, totally reset, everyone recover, don't talk about it, don't push it, dive back in. But I would say if you are diving back in a second time and your child is processing it the same way, reacting the same way, you kind of have your answer. And at that point, I wouldn't keep resetting and redoing, because that's just perpetuating in their mind, we aren't going to really take this seriously. If I get upset enough, we'll go back to the thing that doesn't make me upset, right? And then everyone's starting from a harder place. So there is some value in a reset. I just want to discourage parents from multiple resets when at some point you're probably going to have to say, look, we know you're capable. We know you understand the process. We are going to help you feel safe so that your body can take over. And like you said, there is a lot of trial and error to that. It's very hard when parents don't have the hindsight that we all have. We've seen so many kids that were so extreme when they first started. I mean, Bernadette, you had a little girl who held what, all day, all night, and almost all the next day. And she was drinking
24 hours. Yeah.
So really nothing is unheard of. Nothing is abnormal, meaning like they just don't get there. And everything is something that has to be worked through. Where parents run into trouble is that, you know, a 3-day process just isn't going to fit that kiddo. It's going to be baby steps. It's going to be over a longer period of time. And more than likely, you, the parent, are going to need some support and some coaching, because your child's going to be relying so heavily on you. And you're going to need someone to rely on to know, is this normal? Is this right? Help you see the little progress. Because these kids, when they make progress, it isn't always impressive. Like, we got it, right? It's like, we peed on the floor. Yay, what's next? So baby steps, and not all families can get through the baby steps, you know, on their own. So don't give up. You know, we always like to say, like, everyone figures this out at some point. No one's going off to college, you know, not potty trained. So we're going to get there, and much sooner than college. And of course, if you need our help, we can work with you one-on-one. These questions are great. Keep them coming. I'll put in the description where you can do that. And that's it. That's what we have for today. So send us your questions about sleep, potty training, behavior, picky eating, really anything. The hats that we wear are sleep and potty, but we have a vast network, a village of other providers that can also answer any of your day-to-day family challenge questions. So we will be back soon with more. Thank you, everybody. Bye.